Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas. I'm Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight comes from China. It's not about the Wuhan virus lockdowns there or the protests against those restrictions. It is about another crisis that has been plaguing the country. Its real estate sector is crumbling, quite literally. Demolitions are taking place, unoccupied homes exist, and there is an intensifying property crisis. Tonight, we tell you about why homes in China are being demolished, how the country's property sector reached this point, and what lies at the very foundation of this intensifying crisis. What you just saw happened last year. China tore down those buildings for a reason. They were failed projects. Either the builders could not finish them or there were no buyers. How many homes do you think China has demolished since last year? Let me take you through some of the recent headlines. Headline number 1. This is from September 2021. China blows up 15 high-rises because constructors ran out of money to finish them. Headline number 2. This piece is from January this year. Evergrande has been ordered to demolish 39 buildings in Chinese resort. Headline number 3, and this is the latest one. China tears down tower blocks in effort to boost stalling economy. What began last year has not stopped. The demolition campaign is now intensifying. Millions of homes could be taken down in the coming weeks. The crisis within China's property sector is getting worse. And in the next few minutes, we'll talk about China's doomed property sector. Let me first tell you about a new report that has come out. It has revealed some shocking details. Around 3 billion square meters of housing is on target. 3 billion square meters. Either construction has been halted or the structures are being demolished. China has no option but to take these projects down because so many of them are empty. I have some numbers for you. These are from last month. There are 50 million unoccupied homes in China today. These homes were built, they were bought, but no one lives in these homes. This is according to one report. But a research firm in London has put out its own estimates. They claim the numbers are much higher. There could be 100 million homes unoccupied in China today, and that is the big problem. There are more homes than people who need them. When supply is greater than demand, it often brings the prices down. In China's case, it has triggered the collapse of an entire sector. Housing sales in China have fallen by about 35% on a year-on-year basis. Developers are in distress due to their high levels of debt. At least 18 developers have announced defaults. They were unable to pay back their debts. Things are so bad that they are unable to finish the projects that they started because they ran out of cash. A mortgage boycott campaign is gaining momentum. As of July, at least 319 projects in 93 cities were affected. Home buyers have refused to pay back their mortgages. They bought homes and properties in these projects, but they never got possession. So they have refused to repay their debts. These debts could be anywhere around $270 to $300 billion. So if the payments do not resume, we are looking at fresh defaults worth billions. And there are more people who could join this boycott campaign because the Chinese economy has more dead housing projects. Consider this statistic: 40% homes sold in the last decade are yet to be delivered by the developers. Only 60% of the buyers have got the homes that they booked. The properties were sold between 2013 and 2020. These are pre-sale orders, meaning the projects were started by developers. They have taken advance bookings, but they are yet to finish the construction. And no one knows if they will come through on these promises. Some developers have already given up on their projects, and that is why the demolitions. The Chinese state is trying to stabilize the property market by fixing the supply problems. Failed projects are being taken down through demolitions. 3 billion square meters of housing has been identified. 75 million people can live there. That's big enough to house the entire population of the United Kingdom. But China is ready to get rid of these properties. Either the housing project has been halted or they are being demolished. And that's bad news for Beijing. The property sector makes up a third of China's economic output. It is a pillar for China's economy. To say it is struggling would be an understatement. Developers need $444 billion to complete the stalled projects. And so far, Beijing has only managed a bailout of $148 billion. Where will the rest of the money come from? China is non-committal. There is no guarantee that everyone will get a bailout. What do you think will happen to those projects that fail? There is only one outcome that comes to mind. Chinese citizens need to brace for more demolitions. Let me now show you what happened in Ukraine over the weekend. These visuals are from Kharkiv. What you see burning is a Ukrainian power station. It was hit by a Russian missile on the 11th of September. The result? Total blackout in Kharkiv and Donetsk regions. There were also power cuts in Zaporizhia, the Dnipropetrovsk and Sumy regions. And here's another site that was hit by Russian missiles. This is Dnipro. The missile hit its city center, also residential buildings and warehouses. This is where Dnipro is located on the map between Kharkiv and Zaporizhia. Russian missiles also hit Mykolaiv. It is a port city in the south of Ukraine, some 60-odd kilometers from Kherson. 9 people were injured in this city on the 11th of September. The missile struck in the early hours of Sunday.
We were attacked at 2:30 a.m. by a missile. It landed here. It blew out all the windows and doors. I've got nothing left except for the toilet.
When the explosion happened, I flew out of my bed and ran here to the yard as fast as possible. There, everything was shattering and buzzing. Then, an hour or two later, everything rustled and something collapsed. The house there collapsed.
Goes without saying, it has been a tough weekend for Ukraine. But if you ask its leadership, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will tell you to look at the silver lining. Ukraine claims it has been able to make huge gains in its counter-offensive. This operation started in early September, and so far, Ukraine claims to have won back 2,000 square kilometers of land that was occupied by Russia. To understand this better, Russia holds around a fifth of the country. We are talking about over 120,000 square kilometers of land. It controls key towns like Melitopol, Mariupol, Donetsk, Luhansk, Severodonetsk. Ukraine claims to have taken back 20 towns and villages. The most important being the city of Izium. This is where it is located on the map. Russian forces use Izium as its logistics base for supplies to Donbass. And like you can see in this map, this city is like a gateway to Donbass. In other words, it was Russia's stronghold in northeastern Ukraine. And Ukraine says Russian troops have fled Izium, and they have left behind their weapons and other equipment. Ukraine also claims to have retaken Kupiansk, again a key supply hub, also a key rail hub. Now, what does this tell you? Is Russia not capable of holding on to its military gains? Is this a military setback for Russia? Reports say it had taken Russians 6 weeks to capture Izium. It was lost in less than 24 hours.
The advancement of our soldiers in different areas of the front continues. At present, approximately 2,000 kilometers of our territory has been liberated as part of active measures since the beginning of September. The Russian army these days is showing its best ability to show its back. And finally, it's not a bad choice for them to flee. There is no place for the occupiers in Ukraine, and there will never be.
Ukraine is calling Russia's retreat from Izium a breakthrough in the war. Zelensky published footage on social media. It shows a soldier raising the Ukrainian flag in the Chakalovsk village. This is in the Kharkiv region. WION has not been able to verify the authenticity of the video. Western commentators are calling this Kiev's swiftest advance since March. The reference is to the time that the Ukrainian forces had taken to drive away Russian forces from Kiev. Now, what does Russia have to say about Ukraine's big claims? Russia acknowledges leaving Izium, adding that it was a pre-planned regrouping to fight in Donetsk. In other words, Russia says, we did not lose Izium, we chose to abandon it. Ukraine, however, does not agree. It says, Russia bombed the power station on Sunday, also attacked the civilian infrastructure as a retaliation against Ukraine's military advances. By now, this back and forth has become almost routine. Quick reminder here, it's been 200 days since the war started. In fact, today is day 201, and there is no peace in sight. Ukraine may tell you that this is a turning point in the war, that it is driving away the Russian troops from Ukrainian land. But like we told you earlier, while the gain of Izium may be strategically significant, it does not amount to much at a macro level. So the question now is, where does the war go from here? Situations like these often come with three broad options. One, peace talks. You know, the two sides put their cards on the table and work towards a solution. Option number two, escalation. Both sides choose to up the ante and fight it out. Option number three is a limbo. Earlier today, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov was asked whether Russia would be responding to Ukraine's counteroffensive with a general mobilization, put more troops on the ground, or will it prefer peace talks? Listen in to what Peskov had to say.
Сейчас не идет речь об отводе войск. Сейчас идет речь о главном. Это вынудить украинскую сторону прекратить варварские обстрелы.
In other words, where the war goes from here is anybody's guess. Now, guess who else tried to guess this war's trajectory? Elon Musk. Back in May, he was worried about a Russian escalation. Musk feared that the invasion will trigger a world war. In fact, Musk told his bankers to go slow on the Twitter takeover. He was tracking the statements of Vladimir Putin as well. But Twitter has doubts about the intentions of Elon Musk. It claims the billionaire entrepreneur was not worried about the repercussions of the war. Instead, he was looking for a way to blow up the Twitter takeover. Our next report getting you the details.
We're talking about Twitter.
It was early May. Elon Musk was having second thoughts about his bid to take over Twitter. The billionaire entrepreneur pulled out his phone. He texted a Morgan Stanley banker these words. It wouldn't make sense to buy Twitter if we're heading into World War III. This text message could have been the turning point, the moment when Elon Musk decided to back down. Now, the same exchange has ended up in hands of lawyers representing Twitter. The platform has sued Elon Musk for walking away from the agreement. The case is being heard by a court in Delaware. Twitter's legal defense is simple. It wants to prove Musk was fishing around for reasons to blow up the deal. That's where these text messages come in. On the 8th of May, Musk spoke with Michael Grimes. Grimes works with Morgan Stanley, the bank that was financing a part of the $44 billion deal. Musk told Grimes, "Let's slow down just a few days." The Tesla founder was worried about a speech by Vladimir Putin. The Russian president was supposed to speak the next day. That is, on the 9th of May. This is the speech Musk was referring to. It was Victory Day in Russia, and Vladimir Putin marked the occasion with a parade and a speech. Yes, Putin did threaten an escalation.
Preparations were openly underway for another punitive operation in Donbass and an invasion of our historic lands, including Crimea. Kiev has announced a possible acquisition of nuclear weapons. The NATO bloc began active military development of the territories adjacent to ours. This was an absolutely unacceptable threat, systematically created for us, and right on our borders.
But there was no world war, like the one that Musk feared. Was it a lapse in judgment, or did Musk genuinely fear that the war in Ukraine will spill over? Twitter says Musk was looking for a pretext, a reason to walk away from the takeover. Twitter is now suing Elon Musk. It wants the court to force him to comply with the terms of the deal and complete the takeover. Musk's lawyers have countersued Twitter. They're using a whistleblower's claims to argue that Twitter has misled investors about bot accounts on the platform. The contentious legal battle is set to escalate in October, when the trial begins. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
After debatable predictions, let's now discuss some hard facts, like the energy crisis in Europe. It's getting worse by the day. Electricity bills are soaring, gas reserves are depleting, and winter is coming. As the mercury dips, gas and oil consumption is going to pick up pace. But Europe does not have enough supplies. So what is it doing to avert this crisis from snowballing? Cost cutting. Almost every European nation has set new power-saving targets. New limits on energy consumption. Take the case of Greece. It has told the public sector to turn off lights or face consequences. What sort of consequences? The withdrawal of government funding to energy firms. Listen to this.
Reduce the air conditioning. Maintain the heaters. Remember to turn off the lights so we are not wasting energy. The lights on government buildings do not still be on at midnight. We are asking basic things.
In France, the government is taking similar steps every day. As the evening descends, the lights are dimmed, the monuments go dark, the fountains stop running. French cities bear a desolate spectacle. The scale of the crisis can be gauged through this story. The Eiffel Tower switching off its twinkling lights. The most visited monument in the world could go dark an hour earlier than usual. French citizens say their prospects look gloomy.
It's a bit gloomy. It's sad. Especially buildings like the Place des Beaux Arts behind me are usually magnificently lit up, even with little light.
So we know there is a crisis. The question is, how bad could this get, and is there a way out? Let's try to find some answers. To start with, American officials are a bit alarmed at the crisis. They don't see any obvious solutions in sight. Reports claim that White House staff is worried that Putin plans to force a bleak winter on Europe. They believe that he might cut off all supplies anytime, the impact of which would be severe. You see, if Putin follows through this threat, Europe will certainly enter recession. That's exactly what the Americans fear. Reports in American media have gone as far as to say that Europe could be heading back to the Middle Ages, to using firewood for heating, to waiting weeks for supplies, and traveling miles for fuel. And what's worse, this will not be a short-term crisis. Analysts are expecting a deeper, prolonged crisis and an even more persistently elevated inflation. The figures tell you the story. According to a recent survey, economies in the Eurozone, which is a monetary union of 19 EU nations, will witness a 1.7% contraction in real GDP. 1.7%. And some European nations will be worse off than the others. Let me show you some more numbers. According to the same survey, the GDP growth rate in Germany will be down by minus 2.3%. In France, it will be down by minus 2.1%, and in Spain, minus 1.6%. Interestingly, America stands to gain from Europe's suffering. Let me explain this. You see, as European economies worsen and cut their reliance on Russia, they will be moving more towards the US. They will be attracted to American firms. They will look forward to American investments. As it is, America already produces enough of its own natural gas, so it will not be affected by Russia restricting its flow to Europe. Even if it were to increase supplies to the continent, in fact, America already is making up for the loss of Russian gas. Reports say roughly 70% of American gas exports are going to Europe. Since March, US firms have imported over 30 billion cubic meters to Europe. What does this tell you? That the war in Ukraine is proving to be a blessing for American businesses. As European cities go dark, as European citizens reduce power consumption, they will find themselves more and more reliant on American alternatives. And our next story is about Ethereum, the world's second largest cryptocurrency network. It plans to make a radical technological shift, and it's being called Ethereum Merge, a major software upgrade which will apparently lower energy consumed in crypto mining by 99.95%. 99.95% is a big claim, but does it really add up? Our next report explores.
Cryptocurrency mining is a strenuous process. It involves the use of specialized computers which solve complex mathematical problems to validate transactions and get new crypto coins. This process involves enormous amounts of power. Take the case of Bitcoin. In 2021, Bitcoin's annual consumption was 128 terawatt hours. That's 10 times more than Google's energy consumption and almost 0.6% of the world's electricity production. Such a colossal amount of energy consumption means a colossal amount of carbon emissions, which basically makes crypto mining a highly polluting process. One cryptocurrency blockchain aims to change this. Ethereum, the world's second largest crypto network. A single transaction on Ethereum requires the same power as an average US household uses in a week. And annually, this network uses as much electricity as the country of Bangladesh. This is set to change. Ethereum plans to make a radical technological shift, a major software upgrade. They're calling it Ethereum Merge. What's that? As the name indicates, it's simply a process to merge two blockchains, Ethereum's existing execution layer called mainnet and a new consensus layer called the beacon chain. Ethereum plans to merge these two. What's the intention? To make Ethereum more energy efficient, to reduce the energy consumption that goes into validating transactions. How will it help? Ethereum says it will lower the blockchain's energy consumption by 99.95%. That's a big claim. But is it going to impact the price of Ether crypto? Analysts are split. Some say there will be no direct impact. Others are predicting volatility in the near term. And that's not the only issue. Security experts have raised another concern. They say the network update on Ethereum could make it vulnerable to a reorg attack, meaning they could exploit the latency during the update, maliciously duplicate the blockchain and steal transaction data. Here's hoping the network is paying heed to these concerns. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
This week, we could witness a major diplomatic shake-up. Members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, will hold their annual summit. It is happening in Uzbekistan. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is attending. Chinese President Xi Jinping will be there. So will Russian President Vladimir Putin. This year's summit is attracting the world's attention, and there are many reasons for that. But tonight, I want to focus on a proposal. And if it goes through, it could create a serious challenge for the West. The proposal is about Iran. Iran wants to join the SCO. And if a report is to be believed, the proposal is pretty much a done deal. Russian state news agency has published a story. It features comments from the SCO Secretary General, Zhang Ming. Let me tell you what he said. We expect SCO leaders to sign a memorandum on Iran's commitments to join the organization, after which Iran would fulfill appropriate commitments in accordance with the procedures and complete its accession to the organization. Let me decode that for you. Iran would be a step closer towards SCO membership. It will have to fulfill some conditions first. Already, Tehran enjoys an observer status at the SCO, so the bid for full membership should not come as a surprise. An Iranian delegation will attend the summit. It will be led by the Iranian president himself, Ibrahim Raisi. How quickly can Iran be inducted into the SCO? Reports say it could happen as soon as next year. And all this seems like a matter of formality now. Once Iran is admitted, it will be the 9th member of the SCO. The grouping has 8 members today. The membership comes with a lot of benefits for Tehran. Iran can build closer ties with China, a powerful member of the SCO. Already, this relationship is deepening. As of last year, China was Iran's #1 trading partner and oil customer. In return, Beijing has provided Tehran with technology know-how. Iran has used Chinese technology to develop its energy resources, modernize its military hardware, and develop its infrastructure. Iran can get close to Russia as well. Russian forces have acquired Iranian drones for the war in Ukraine, and SCO membership for Iran will boost this partnership further. There is more that unites Iran with China and Russia. Their adversarial relationship with the United States, the US has imposed tough sanctions on Iran. Russia and China see America as their arch rival. And that is why this is a natural partnership. China, Russia, and Iran. They represent a new anti-Western axis, and they want to use the SCO to rope in more allies. And that's the agenda Russia and China have for this year's summit. They want to present an alternative to the current world order, one that is dominated by Western powers today. The most obvious question now is, where does India fit in this mix? India is a full member of the SCO. It is also one of the 4 countries that is part of the Quad grouping, the SCO and the Quad. They are 2 dramatically different alliances with competing agendas. How will India pull off a balancing act? It will be tough. Already New Delhi is facing pressure to pick sides. Reports claim Iran wants India to resume oil purchases. Tehran wants New Delhi to disregard the Western sanctions and buy Iranian oil, just like it buys Russian oil. Remember, India was one of the leading buyers of Iranian oil, but the purchases stopped in 2019. This was after the Trump administration had slapped stringent sanctions on Iran. Will India reverse that decision? How does it plan to engage with the SCO when China and Russia propose and push their anti-West agenda? India's multi-alignment approach faces a test this week. And our next story comes from Britain. It is mourning the demise of its monarch and bracing itself for the era of its new one. King Charles III, he was proclaimed Britain's king on Saturday. And this afternoon, he addressed the British Parliament, where he was greeted with the first rendition of God Save the King in over 70 years. Meanwhile, farewell processions for the Queen continue. They will last till next Sunday, post which the Queen will be laid to rest. Our next report telling you more.
Four days since Queen Elizabeth II passed away, Britain remains in a state of mourning. Tributes are piling up outside Buckingham Palace. British citizens are observing 2-minute silence, and condolences are pouring in from all over the world. Indonesia. The Bahamas. Even the United Arab Emirates. Several countries around the world are paying their respects to Britain's former monarch, at the same time extending their wishes to the new one. King Charles III. On Monday morning, he addressed lawmakers and peers in the British Parliament, promising to follow the example set by his mother.
My lords and members of the House of Commons, we gather today in remembrance of the remarkable span of the Queen's dedicated service to her nations and peoples. While very young, Her late Majesty pledged herself to serve her country and her people, and to maintain the precious principles of constitutional government which lie at the heart of our nation. This vow she kept with unsurpassed devotion. She set an example of selfless duty, which, with God's help and your counsels, I am resolved faithfully to follow.
As the King concluded his speech, the UK's national anthem followed, only that the word Queen in the anthem was replaced by King. This marked the first time in 70 years that God Save the King was sung publicly. This was followed by a public procession, a procession of the Queen's coffin, led by King Charles in Edinburgh. A short while later, the King did something unusual. He stopped by at the Holyrood Palace to greet his and his mother's well-wishers. The mourning period will last till September 18th. On the 19th, the Queen will be laid to rest in a state funeral at Westminster Abbey, the first state funeral in 6 decades. Who will be attending it? Besides British royals and lawmakers, there will be over 500 world leaders and foreign dignitaries in attendance. The list includes New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, Japan's Emperor Naruhito, and Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, among several others. Interestingly, none of the attendees will be accorded special privileges. They will all be transported in private buses. The palace has also issued several other interesting guidelines. It has asked people coming to the funeral to be dressed in suitable clothing, avoid selfies with the coffin, and not cause trouble. A subtle jibe at those protesting the monarchy's crimes all over the world. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Our next story comes from Africa. Lake Tanganyika is the world's second deepest freshwater lake. In recent years, it has swallowed entire homes and roads, leaving scores of people homeless. What's behind this? Experts are blaming climate change, among other factors. Take a look at this report to find out more.
This is Lake Tanganyika, the second deepest freshwater lake in the world. It is shared between 4 countries: the Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Burundi, and Zambia. But now, this giant's waters are swallowing homes and roads, leaving scores of people homeless. Experts say the waters have risen by over 5 meters in recent years. Persistent heavy rain, floods, strong winds, and geological shifts are seen as major factors behind this. The worst affected are the inhabitants of Kalemi. Kalemi is a province in Democratic Republic of Congo located on the shores of this water body. Alain Sikuli is a local here. He points to heaps of debris of destroyed homes on the lake's shores.
Look, here was a very nice house. Look, on the other side, all the people have fled. We don't know where we can get help so that we can rebuild. Look at all this closely. We are living through a nightmare. Tanganyika has destroyed us all.
Local politicians are now calling the situation a humanitarian emergency. They're urging the Congolese government to step in.
This is a humanitarian emergency. You know that these people have lost their homes, their belongings, and today most of them are almost abandoned. I think it is important and urgent for the government to be able to provide the solution to our fellow citizens in distress. And we, the elected officials, have the responsibility to say so, the responsibility to challenge the government, the leaders, so that they can come to the aid of our fellow citizens and find solutions to the problems that are festering Tanganyika, especially concerning this problem of the rising waters of Lake Tanganyika.
Among those trying to come up with solutions is former Provincial Minister of Tanganyika, Kaluma Abedi Ibrahim, previously oversaw infrastructure, urban planning, land affairs and habitat. On his office walls are plans for the reinforcement of the lake's shores. He says that as of now, there are no plans to drain the lake. He said the Democratic Republic of Congo and places such as Kalemi have been disproportionately affected due to geographical factors. The official warns the situation could deteriorate further in the next 5 years if swift action is not taken to find a solution. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Our final story for the evening is from India. It is a story about a doctor who is now being hailed as a hero. His name is Govind Nandakumar. He is from Bengaluru. On the 30th of August, Nandakumar was on his way to his hospital. A patient was waiting for him. She needed an emergency gallbladder surgery. The doctor's team had set up everything, but he needed to be there on time. Nandakumar left his home on time, but Bengaluru city is synonymous with traffic jams. It is infamous for its hours-long traffic jams every 2 steps, and you find yourself stuck in traffic. Nandakumar also found himself stuck his hospital was still 3 kilometers away. The traffic was bad, and there was no way he was going to make it for the surgery on time. So he decided to run to work. The doctor left his car behind and started running. He ran past the cars that were stuck in that jam and ran for 3 kilometers. As soon as he reached the hospital, Nandkumar changed into his surgical attire and went straight in for the surgery. The surgery was successful, and the patient went home healthy. Doesn't this story bring a smile to your face? Amid all the stories of war and crises, it is rare to find such stories. And what does this tell you? That there are still people who are ready to go the extra mile for the sake of others. I'm sure you remember the stories of Bengaluru floods. We were reporting about them all of last week. This story is from the same time. Nandakumar ran to attend to his patient when the roads were waterlogged and the traffic was worse than usual. He says, you gotta do what you got to do. And he's right. There will always be hurdles in your line of duty. Someday, it's the flooded roads. Someday, it will be something else. The challenge before you is to be sincere towards your work regardless. And you know what? Not many accept this challenge. The age of quiet quitting teaches you to put yourself before work. Focus on yourself before others. This doctor also could have done the same. He could have very well sat in his car, focused on his comfort, and waited for the traffic to clear up. Instead, he decided to prioritize his patient. He left behind his car and ran for 3 kilometers. You know why? So that his patient gets medical help on time, so that the doctor's delay in reaching the hospital does not add to the family's anxiety. In an age that teaches you to be selfish, it is rare to find such stories of dedication to one's duty. So let Dr. Govind Nandkumar be the source of your #Monday motivation. Let's now tell you what else made news. Time for Gravitas Global Headlines.
Taipei says 2 Chinese aircraft crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait as Beijing continues its military maneuvers near the island. Ethiopia's Tigray rebels agreed to a ceasefire and a peace process led by the African Union, removing an obstacle to negotiations with the government to end almost 2 years of brutal warfare. Iran says it is ready to continue its cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, calling on the agency not to yield to Israel's pressure over Tehran's nuclear activities. India's annual retail inflation accelerates to 7% in August, snapping a 3-month downward trend driven by a rise in food prices, according to government data. Germany will seek talks with Switzerland on nuclear waste storage, says Chancellor Olaf Scholz, as Berlin warns that a Swiss facility close to the border would heavily burden communities on the other side. Islamabad's anti-terrorism court extends interim pre-arrest bail of PTI chairman Imran Khan till September 20th in connection with a terrorism case against him. Clashes between police and protesters marked the 49th anniversary of the military coup in Chile, as a march was held in Santiago to pay tribute to those who disappeared during the dictatorship. A torrential rainstorm inundates streets, leaving cars stranded across Chicago, one of the most populated cities of America's Illinois state. Carlos Alcaraz has won his maiden Grand Slam title with victory at the US Open and become the youngest men's world #1 in history. The 19-year-old beat Norway's Casper Ruud in the final 6-4, 2-6, 7-6, 6-3. The Spaniard is also the youngest men's Grand Slam champion since Rafael Nadal in 2005. England completed an impressive home summer with a 2-1 Test Series victory over South Africa. The hosts needed just over 2 days of play to wrap up a comprehensive 9-wicket win in the Oval Test. This is England's third consecutive series win since captain Ben Stokes and head coach Brendan McCullum took charge.
With that, it's a wrap. Leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.